I'm David Dunbar, a retired geophysicist now. For some 37 years, I wrote programs for seismic data processing in the oil industry. I was recently asked if I had any advice for someone starting programming. I'm not going to tell you what language to use. My personal preferences are C, C++, Fortran, Perl. But quite frankly, some languages are better than others at some task, and I don't know what your task is going to be. The thing to remember is that if anything you write turns out to be useful, it will hang around for quite a while. The net result of that is you can find yourself in a position of having to come back and look at the code you have written a long time previously. And the odds of you remembering what it is you were doing is small. At one point I had to go look at a program I had written some 15 years earlier, and at that point I barely remembered that I had written it, much less what it did and how it did it. So the advice on this is comment your code thoroughly. It's a pain. A lot of people really don't like doing this. Some people's attitude on comments in the code is, well, why do you think they call it code? If you ever have to go look at somebody's work who has done that, you had better hope that they did it right the first time, because you are unlikely to figure out what it is they did, and much more importantly, why they did it that way. The user documentation is something that programmers typically hate to write. You will find that you will have some users who want to know everything possible about a program, and others who will be surprised that there is documentation. But you have to write it. It has to be sort of coherent. The next thing is that whatever language you're using on whatever platform you will have a debugger available to you, I hope. Get very used to using it. My preference is on a Linux system using C or C++. There is a debugger that's a front end to the GDB debugger. Is called DDD. That is extremely good. It's got a user manual that's the size of a small town's phone book. You do not have to read the entire manual to use it, but I will tell you that at some point or another, if you're good with a debugger, the debugger will tell you things about your program you did not know you needed to know. The third thing is source code control. There are a lot of packages available to use to keep track of what's been done, who did it, why the changes were made, and the like. These will save your butt at some point or another. At my last job, we had someone who decided to go in and revert about a month's worth of changes that someone else had written without checking. Without the source code system we had in place, that would have put us back about 6 months. The guy did get fired for this after a bit. One thing when you were checking code in on whatever system you were using, they all have a space to say why these changes have been made. You don't have to write a book, but do put something coherent in these change check-ins. That will give you a lot of hint as to what's going on. Also, every change control system will have ways of showing you what has been changed, when it got changed, and frequently who did the change. This is really important stuff to know. We've had cases where a very subtle bug got introduced into a program that we didn't find for 6 months, and the program had been changed about 10 times in between. Sorting that out is a very useful thing, and you will spend an inordinate amount of time trying to figure this out without a source code control system.